So I'm very, very pleased to be talking to Evan Martin, who we've discussed is a producer and all-round musical force for good.
Nice.
It's probably the best way to say it. So yeah, thanks so much for hopping on Zoom and talking to me. I really appreciate it. Let's jump right in. Pretty simple question, I suppose, to start off with. How did you get into music production?
Okay, so I started guitar lessons when I was in year 6 in primary school, I think, because I heard like Green Day and Kings of Leon, and I was like, yeah, I want to be like that. So I started that, and I did that all through secondary school. Did music GCSE. I took kind of like the nerdy route. I did a lot of musical education. And then I did A-level, and around that time, I joined a band that was called Trash. We were all 4 guys from my hometown, Chesterfield. And so I used to play in that band, and we'd, play live and record and all that stuff. And I remember the studio being a really good place to be fair. I really liked just being there. I liked the process of making a record. I thought all the gear was so interesting. I love the dynamic of being in the studio and how it's like this weird holiday that you have that also pushes you to your absolute limits. And so, yeah, I thought after doing a few sessions, so we recorded at a few different studios. The main one was The Nave in Leeds, which is an amazing studio. A guy called Alex Greaves did most of our stuff. Amazing producer. In fact, he's probably one of the reasons I'm doing it, because he went to Huddersfield, you see.
Okay.
Yeah, all the best ones do. Myself not included, but you definitely are included. And I just got talking to him. I just said that I was really interested in it, and he just said, go for it. He gave me some really positive encouragement. He was a good dude about it, and so I just thought, yeah, I like the studio lifestyle. I prefer it to being on the road. On the road's too unstable. It's too rock and roll for me.
Yeah. Oh, I can completely agree with that. Obviously, that's why the studio attracted me, because it's kind of you're in one place and that's what you do your thing there.
Yeah.
So that was the reason that you ended up in Huddersfield, because obviously we met in Huddersfield.
Yeah.
Was it that particular experience that led you to go on to uni, or were you always thinking about uni? What was driving?
To be fair, I wasn't thinking about uni, because I finished A-levels and I was just like, man, I'm so done with education.
Yeah.
I was like, I'd just done maths A-level, and I was like, I can't think about another number again. I can't do this. I was so done with education, and like, if you look at my grades from like GCSE, were pretty good, and then first year A-level got a bit worse, and then the second year A-level just plummeted, because I'd stopped caring, man. I was just thinking about music all the time, thinking about my band and stuff.
Yeah.
And then, I just got talking to a few producers, and it turns out they all went to Huddersfield, like every single one that I spoke to.
Right.
There was Alex Green, one, a guy called James Hill, who recorded some of the early Trash stuff. He's a Sheffield-based guy, does a lot of live sound. He was at Steel City Studios, in case you're interested. Right. And there was another guy I knew called James Simpson, who was in a band called Get Inuit. And he's another producer we work with a bit. And he also went to Huddersfield. And so I was like, you know what? I don't need any more convincing. Let's do that. And if that's what got them into the industry, then maybe it's what will get me into the industry as well.
Okay, yeah. No, it's interesting that so many people went to Huddersfield, because I agree, particularly at the time that we were thinking about uni. It was really, I think it still is a great place to go for music and music technology. Yes. And yeah, how did you find uni, either like directly or indirectly, influence your production?
As in like the actual course that I did and the whole experience?
Yeah, the course you did, the whole experience. Like how did your production change over the course of time being at uni? Like, did uni contribute to that?
Yeah, definitely. I think when I first got there, I mean, I'm trying to think what my impression of being a music producer was. I definitely picture myself being in a huge studio by now, being in like the world, like working in Abbey Road, different band in every single day. Definitely pictured that. A little bit unrealistic, I have to admit. I thought about that. I think my placement year had a lot to do with it, because that's your first exposure to what it's like to actually be in the industry, and to what it's like being fairly at the bottom as well. You know, so that definitely influenced me, and what like made me realize what I want to do, the way I like working, the way I don't like working, and also I think playing in bands has a lot to do with it, as you would also know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm a big fan of Quentin.
Oh, thank you.
Everything that you do. So yeah, you produced a lot with. Is with the right word for Quentin? Because it was very sort of everyone was involved, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'd say with Quentin or as Quentin or
as Quentin. Yeah, it's interesting because obviously coming from a band where we're also quite involved, it adds a new perspective to production. Suddenly you're having to account for a lot of different opinions to sort of come to a conclusion. And maybe producing with Quentin, although I'm not sure whether it came first before producing with other people, I'm sure that it gave you the skills to be able to pull together a lot of ideas from a lot of people who wanted lots of different things. So I'm aware that you've produced a lot of different bands in Huddersfield. A lot of those were through the uni as well. Could you tell me a bit more about your approach to recording? And let's have a think. How do you prep for recordings?
Oh, that's a good one. I think the more you produce, the more sessions you do, the more you realize how much prep there is to do and how important it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to. I mean, the main thing is, like, you need to know musically what's going on. You need to know like as much about the music of the song and where it's going to be as possible. Like, if you can have every single part written, even down to like the very note, and you know what instrument you're going to use, you can take it a step further, know what mic you're going to use, what room it's going to be. But the more you can know, I think of it as like being a movie director. You know, if you've got a good script and it's all written out, and you've got people who've storyboarded all the shots, and your actors are well rehearsed, then stuff's going to go better. You know, and in a way, it actually gives you more opportunity to be spontaneous, because like you've got a really good groundwork, and then when you deviate from it, you know where you're coming back. You know, okay, so this is the song. Let's go back to where we were. But yeah, prep in general, I do as much as I can, to be honest.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that as well, because the song that's recently been released, produced for Alfie Navalon.
What a song! What a tune!
Yeah, it's a good song, isn't it? But I remember you specifically heard that at a gig, and you're like, "That's the song I want to produce."
Yeah, fully.
Yeah, and you obviously came into it having a clear vision of what it wanted to be. It definitely translated in the studio. So that session in particular, you made quite a lot of interesting engineering choices.
Yeah.
How did you think about the engineering in terms of getting the song across in the way you wanted? What engineering choices did you deliberately make?
Well, so with that one, I had a quite set vision. So I wanted it to sound like an early Kings of Leon record.
Right.
And that's twice I mentioned Kings of Leon.
I think you mentioned that to us as well. Yeah.
Like, even more specifically, their second album, The Harshik Heartbreak. So it's that early 2000s kind of garagey indie. It sounds warm. It sounds kind of analog. It sounds old school. It sounds authentic. It sounds kind of rock and roll. That's the sound I was going for. And so what I was doing was I was looking at the guy who produced that, his name's Ethan Johns, the son of Glyn Johns. Yes, the Glyn.
Really?
The Glyn Johns. Yeah.
Dude, that's great.
What a family, right?
Yeah.
What a family. So I did some research. I looked on some Sound on Sound articles.
That's the best place to look at.
You know, like what comes up on the corner of the video. This video includes paid promotion.
I hope so.
So I was looking at some stuff that he was doing, and I found out that all the music was tracked live. You know, drums, bass, guitar. Most of the time, it's two guitars. They might overdub a solo or something, but it was mainly live. All in the same room. It was super minimal mics, like especially the drums, just stereo overhead, kick and snare. Good big old bass amp, just with a mic in front of it. Obviously, all like old tube mics and big condensers and a few ribbons and stuff. And so I just took that kind of stuff. I took that method of working, and I did that. Like, I just wanted to record you guys live, use all the nice old gear. Didn't want to be chopping stuff about. Didn't want to be using a click track. And I don't even think I did any splicing. I think you ended up, well, I can remember it was the second take of the song. It was called Take Two.
Yeah.
And I remember I heard it, and then and you came upstairs, and I was like, yeah, that's it. That's it. That's the best you have played that song. That's the best you will ever play that song. That was so good. And that was it. We didn't do any more. Well, I mean, we recorded some more takes, but we just used everything from take two.
We recorded more takes because obviously in there playing it, you don't quite get the full perspective that you do sitting like in the hot seat. So you're absolutely right. You were like, this is the one. And we're like, oh, okay, yeah, I think it is. Let's just do some more in case. We didn't need to do more. And I think you knew that as well.
Really didn't. Like, sometimes you just know, especially if it happens early. If it was the 13th take, like when it's with the Beatles and they're like, Beatles, let it be, take 37. It's like, at that point, how do they even know it was good anymore? But definitely by the second take, I was thinking that was brilliant. And I know sometimes you just knew. And that one I knew. And you guys knew as well.
Yeah, we definitely did. It's I'm very we love the result. Is it something that feels so natural and it's very true to the performance? It's Now I was wondering about your use of studios and recording spaces in general, because a huge benefit of going to uni is having these studios that we can access and record in and all this lovely gear. Have you, since graduating, found any scenarios where you have to engineer on the fly? Or if you were in a position now where you couldn't have the uni studio, 'cause I'm not sure if you are at the moment. I see you in there every so often, but I don't know. What kind of approach would you take to... Do you find it difficult now that net of uni has disappeared?
It's certainly different. I mean, there's no way I'm tracking a live band with drums, a big Ampeg bass amp, a Fender Blues Junior in this room that's about 5 meters long. There's no way I'm tracking a live band in here.
That room now.
Yeah, so this is my home studio.
Right. Yeah, it looks very studio-y. It looks lovely.
It's in progress. As you can see, there's only two what do you call them, diffusers on the wall.
Better than done.
I couldn't find a way to stick them to the wall. The wall's too hard.
Yeah.
So they're like very dodgily thumbtacked in, but like the corners sagging. So yeah, it's very much it's not every day you get like a great budget and a great studio. I think most producers know this, that you're working in it, like the whole thing's a compromise.
Yeah.
So you just got to find a way of making it work. And if you know a bit about the gear, if you know a few basic recording rules, you can get away with it. This room's big enough for the guitar amp at the back, big enough for vocals. I've been doing a lot of drum programming recently because there's no kit in here. Exactly. You just make it work, don't you?
Yeah. So what's your process in this room specifically? As in, when you come to record music or you get an artist in, what are the things you're worried about, and what are the things you know that you can do
in this room?
Yeah.
Well, the things I'm worried about is that the acoustics are certainly imperfect, shall we say? Like, I can see there's a load of corners where the bass will build up, and hard plastered reflective wall at the back. So it's mainly like acoustic issues because it's only a small room, and so there's going to be phase issues. There's going to be comb filtering and stuff. So I try to have the guitar amp not so loud that it's going to make the room react. That's one thing. I try and have it quite far back so it's not going to pick up all the hiss from the speakers and the computer pulling a hissy fit and going from the fans. Yeah, it's mainly acoustic stuff I'm worried about. Like I mean, there's a skylight back there, and you occasionally get the sound of rain and planes going because there's an airport nearby.
No, I've had the same in
Have
a
you?
studio before, and I do. There was a couple of occasions where I had to schedule a recording session on the day, looking at the weather forecast.
Honestly, people don't know the lengths those producers have to go to.
Yeah, and it was like, right, so you can come between 12 and 4.
Yeah,
It's when that's what it's going to be possible. Do you find that now you've not got these big studios that you spend a lot more time close micing, or do you try and utilize the room for all its imperfections? Do you still try and utilize the room?
I do a little bit. So I was doing some guitar recording here the other day, and I was going for an old 60s. So like that song by Dr. Dre. What's it called? The next episode, where it's down, 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 like the very sort of 60s kind of, Vox amp Fender kind of sound. I was going for that, so I tried to take the mic pretty far back, like I must have been 2 or 3 feet away, but I could just hear like the phase coherency dropping. I could hear the room having too much to do with it, so I brought it back about a foot. But to be fair, I don't record things so loud that the room, or even so quiet that the room has an effect on it, And I also have a handheld mic that if I'm a singer, it's like, well, you're not going to get the room if you're singing there.
Do you do a lot of vocal recording with handheld mics? And
if the singer is better, then definitely. Like when I do vocals, I do it just about every time, to be honest. It just feels so much more like performative. I feel I can get into it. To me, it feels more like you're singing live.
I love that. Yeah. It seems like a really good and simple way to kind of keep the artistic spark going. Because, you could so easily in an imperfect room just get bogged down with like, right, well, how are we miking this to avoid this sound come back from this wall? And and in the end, sometimes it's the simple solutions that really make a big difference.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Yeah, it is. It's very you recording with what I presume is probably a 58, just in front of a.
It's worse than a 58. I can show you if you want.
What is it?
It's much worse. It's just in a wardrobe. 2 seconds.
Oh, absolutely.
Trust me, it's awful. If you like Strokes, though, you might be a fan of it.
All right.
Yeah. It's this. So I got this from a cash generator or a cash converters. It'd be one of the two. I don't know if it's mirrored on the thingy or not, but this is the Arbiter Model SD1000 unidirectional dynamic microphone. And it cost me $9.99 with a case and like a 5-meter cable. And this is it. This is the microphone. It's even got an on and off switch. And so I tried to look online, like, what is it worth? And it turns out that you can't find anything about this mic. So I don't know if it's like some sort of Russian government secret. Mm-hmm. And B, what I could see is that it's probably a karaoke mic.
Right. Okay. It's probably one of those
like a karaoke set
with a jack lead on the end of it.
It did come with that. Yeah, that was the cable. It was like 5 meters long, but a really high quality like metal casing one.
Mm.
And that's my like Strokes mic.
Yeah. Do you find a lot of the time you record, because obviously with this kind of mic, I feel like it's one of them where you've got to commit to the sound.
Yeah.
It's not like having a U87 or something where you can record it and then have like free reign about what you do with it afterwards. Although usually it's very nice by itself. But yeah. What in your workflow, how important is committing to sounds and committing to processing? Do you do it a lot, or do you try and pull stuff back and always have an option?
I think most of the time I'll commit to a sound. I do quite a lot on the way in, but it does depend, because if it's like a project where you're kind of writing it as you're going and it's a bit more creative one, I might do a bit less just because I'm not fully sure where it's going.
Right.
But like with some things, you've got a better idea. So I recorded to one recently and we were going for a Strokesy sound. So I was like, yeah, screw it, bang that in. I was like cranking the compressor, tape emulation, that'll do. Bam, this EQ, that EQ, and we just went with it. So I do try and work like that most of the time. Certainly, if I know I definitely want it, I'll go with it. So I've always got amp reverbs on.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
do all that stuff. Basically, always
spring as well.
Yeah. You know, love a good spring. I always try and have a tape emulation running. I don't know how much you want me to geek out, but
I absolutely love it. Yeah, this is my favorite bit.
So the setup I've got at the minute, it's I've got like the UAD Apollo, you know, like the little two input kind of interface.
Yeah,
which is a pretty good bit of gear for a little crappy studio like this. So I generally have on. There's it's called like a 610 preamp, which is just like the one that comes with it. It's an old 60s one, but it sounds really good. And that's the one I like, the preamp I have to record with. And then I have a tape emulation on it.
Yeah, sorry, I was wondering, with the UAD stuff, do you commit on the way in with it as well? So that commits to your DAW?
Yeah, so it does. You can either have them as a monitor, so it's just playing back so you can hear it, or you can commit to the effect, and I always do that, you know. Right. Makes things easier down the line. So yeah, I'll have like a tape emulation every time, which is like, again, if you want me to geek out, it'll be 7.5 IPS because I like the EQ curve, and it'll be CCIN is the EQ thing. What else? A bit of noise reduction on it because I don't want too much hiss. And I'll probably have an LA2A compressor just doing like 2 or 3 decibels of compression just to round everything off, you know. That's my general, what do you call it? Signal chain for just about everything.
It sounds like you almost, to put it sort of bluntly, kind of mixing on the way in.
Yeah, definitely. Or like at least if I absolutely know I'm going to do it further down the line, then I'm doing it. So I know I'm going to use a tape emulation. I know I'm going to at least be doing like 2 decibels of compression. So I'll just do it on the way in, you know. Yeah.
Oh, it's really nice to hear how you use your small space, because obviously I'm in quite a small space as well.
Yeah.
In fact, I've got a special setup where I end up using the bathroom for the guitar booth. But
nice.
It involves a bit of, you know, coding off. But yeah, it is entirely possible. Do you do a lot of programming drums, or do you get sent drums, or do you go off? So do you get I know quite recently for projects I've been getting drums recorded somewhere else and then just sent to me. What do you do with that?
To be honest, a lot of the time I work with solo artists, and you know, they will be the vocalist. They've written some stuff, and it's like shoestring budget. How cheap can we do it? And so I'll just program drums, because it's like, you know, they can't afford a big space. They can't afford to rent a studio out, and you know, it's like it's got a sound anyway. It's got a vibe to it. If you're programming drums, you can either try and make it sound a bit hip hoppy, you know, a bit kind of fake on purpose, which is always cool. Or there's some good drummer emulations these days, man. So if you think musical, and if you're pretty good on your programming, then you can have a pretty good convincing drum sound, I find.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely, it's a great way to do it, especially in the small studio space. Because there's not a way that I don't think in either of our rooms we get a drum kit in, and you'll probably annoy the neighbours as well.
There is that, but there's a band that rehearses two doors down anyway, and I hear them. So
fair enough. Yeah,
it's what it is.
Do you have, or you're looking for, like either or, any kind of different musical work going on apart from being a producer? Any other sort of strings to what you do?
I'm playing in a couple bands at the minute.
Yeah,
mainly projects that are someone else's project, and I'm like a supporting musician, which is cool. I enjoy that. You know, it means I don't have to think about booking gigs and photo shoots and all that stuff that I don't like doing.
Turn up when you're told.
Exactly. Turn up when I'm told. Yeah. Plug in and play, and we're good to go. I like that. And as well as that, I'm doing writing a bit more for library music and TV and things like that. Trying to get into that a bit, which is good because it keeps your musical mind sharp, keeps your composing and your arranging sharp, which is good, always good.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I know that I've heard a few of your library albums as well, and they're very, very nice. And the ones I've heard are very funky as well.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's different to what I do with when I'm producing other people.
Yeah,
so it's good to keep doing different things, and because you'll learn something from this, you learn something from that.
Good. Yeah, I think honestly, I feel like we've talked about a lot of stuff. We've talked about a lot of it's great to have an insight into what you do, the space you work in, kind of how you've got there.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll be both keeping updated about what comes in the future as well. And I'm sure there's a lot that there's a lot that you're wanting to do and will do. And I'm excited to see where it goes. I really am.
Thank you. You too, man. What's in your current world?
Well, a lot of mixing at the moment. A fair amount of producing, but I'd say actually in reality I'm split between producing and mixing and playing at the moment. That's where it's kind of it's based. Then I've obviously got teaching as well, or more specifically technicianing with a bit of teaching. But yeah, it's kind of a bit of a mix at the moment. Yeah, technicianing.
I'm sure that's not a verb.
Maybe not, but yeah. So yeah, it's a balance. I'm just trying to work out from this point where it's like we're saying, being a younger producer, sound engineer, performer, technician, kind of you're always working out what direction it is that you're going to go in.
You are, and it's a tough one because things change. Like I used to think I was the guy who's going to be, like I said, recording bands of every day, but I found more recently that I really enjoy working with solo artists and doing things like that. Yeah. So you just got to keep it real and be honest about what you are actually enjoying and what you want to be spending your time doing. To be honest,
Yeah. Oh well, thank you so much, Evan.
No problem, my pleasure.
Appreciate it. To sort of round off, is there anything you want to plug, whether that be socials, music coming out, music that's just come out, anything at all? Because I definitely want to give you the opportunity, maybe socials particularly.
Well, I produced a song recently for a band called Alpha and the Avalon.
Oh, of course.
The
thing is, I wasn't even hinting on that. That's a coincidence.
No, that's speaking honestly, that is one of the things I'm most proud of that I've worked on. Like everything just felt right about that. It came out exactly how I wanted it to. The whole thing was great. I loved the whole process. Really proud of that. So if people want to hear something that, captures what I'm about as a producer and what it's like when all the elements come together, when the artist is great, the producer somehow pulls it off, then yeah, check out All I've Got by Alfie Avalon. And check out the bass bit to the first verse where it's which how Toby improvised.
Yeah,
I have no idea how.
Yeah, that was one of my prouder moments. Well, we absolutely love it. I love it as a song, and we're really proud of it, and really like that people are listening. So yeah, So last thing, where can people find you on Instagram, on anything like that?
Yeah, so my Instagram is Marvin Productions,
of course,
which is my business name. I don't even know. It's just something that I made up once. You could check out my band Quentin on probably We Are Quentin on social media. I also would recommend Private Reg, a project by a guy called James Vardy. I've had a lot to do with. That's always good.
I've heard that as well. It's very, very good. I love it.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Quirky.
Yeah.
Great. No, that's yeah.
Thanks very much. Well, we'll end it there for now. But yeah, thank you so much.
Right. No problem.